Hello, this is Shane with Healthcare Managers Playbook, and we're going to pick up on the second installment in that 12-part series about things I wish I knew before I was a director, particularly for the first time. So this topic, we're going to dive into resisting that urge to use likability as a gauge for how good of a job you're doing as director. As clinicians, we're used to being well-liked, and for really good reasons. The nature of our job is we're helping people get better. And when we do that, they're appreciative and they like you. So if somebody comes in and they're stiff and they're having a hard time moving, we work with them, we loosen them up, they get moving better, they're gonna like you. Or if they're in pain, or if they're dizzy, then we do interventions to help lower that pain or take that pain away, help get that dizziness taken care of and get them steady on their feet again. And when we do that, they're really appreciative. In fact, they might bake you a plate of cookies and bring it in. But as a director, as a leader and manager, don't expect you're going to get that same level of appreciation for the things that you have to do. You probably won't get very many plates of cookies sent to you as director. And it doesn't mean that what you're doing is not important, it just means that it's different. And some of these differences in the tasks are the reasons why that you're not seeing that same level of affection for what you're doing. So let's look at a couple of examples. First example would be hiring. We have to make tough decisions sometimes as to who we want to hire. And say, for example, you have an opening, so one of your current therapists says to their friends, hey, apply for this opening. And then they come and talk to you and say, so-and-so is applying, I think they'd be a great fit. But you're also interviewing other candidates for that role. And if you see another therapist that has a better fit, a better combination of skills, helps to shore up your team in a different way, and you hire that person, that's great because you're putting the mission of the department first. But the therapist over here that referred their friend is probably just going to be a little bit disappointed. As long as they can attach the dots and see why you made your decision, even though they're disappointed, they can still be okay with it, but they're probably not going to come in and say, hey boss, great job, great job hiring the right person for the job. They're not going to do that because they really wanted their friend to come work with them. Another example could be when demand or caseload starts to drop and you have to make some tough choices because now you have more therapists than what you have patients for them to see. You may have to ask some of your therapists, hey, can you help out in a different department? Can you go with marketing and talk to referral sources about what we're doing? Can you go with the liaisons and help do intake paperwork? Maybe some of you, hey, if you'd like to take a day off tomorrow, and that's not too big of an imposition, we need somebody to take a day off so now we can have the right number of therapists for the patients that we have to see. Those aren't easy conversations, but they're necessary. And your staff's not going to come back and say, hey, boss, great job. You really managed that dip really well. High five. You're just not going to get that. But they'll see the reasons why, and they'll start to see your consistency in trying to make the right calls and right decisions over time to create a healthy department, as well as to create an environment where patients can come and get really good care. If you're making decisions towards that end, you're going to be maybe not always liked in and out of each of these decisions, but you're going to be appreciated and respected more. Another example would be having to talk to somebody about not meeting the policies or not getting the documentation in time. It's tough to come up to somebody and go, you know what, you're really not dressed in accordance to the dress code. But if we don't say anything and we just overlook it, it starts to drift further and further and further away. So having those conversations of, hey, we're a little bit off the mark, let's tighten that up, can you do that for me? That helps to help stay central to the way that your hospital wants to project themselves into the community and the people that they're taking care of, ultimately because we want them to feel comfortable and we want them to see professionalism in the way that we're doing what we do. As far as documentation and paperwork, man, we just have to get that stuff done. But when it's not done, it's on us to reach out and say, hey, we need to get that finished. Can you finish it today? Can you knock that out today? We need to get this in so we can send and bill on time for our services. Somebody's not going to come and say, you know, boss, I really appreciate you getting after me on those things. My bad. I should have taken care of it. They're not going to do that. So don't let that likability be your gauge, and you can see why it's a tough gauge to keep because of the things that we have to do as managers. So instead of that likability being your gauge, let's look to some other things. If you're creating an environment where therapists can find what they need when they need it and they know where to go and they're not hunting around and searching all over the hospital, that's going to be one metric of saying, hey, I'm doing a good job. If you're setting in processes and procedures where you're eliminating mistakes and errors and cutting down on wasted time, having to make corrections or putting out fires for hurt feelings and that type of thing, you have fewer complaints, fewer frustrations, you have happier staff, happier patients, you're doing a great job. And now people know, hey, when I come in, I can just really dive into patient care. I don't have to solve all these other problems or fires and get things fixed before I can take care of patients. I know I can come in and take great care, and they're going to be happy about that, and they're going to like you for doing that. But most, probably more than liking you, they're going to say, hey, boss is creating a great environment for us, and they're going to respect you for that. Another metric to think about is being fair. I like the analogy of a crew boat where we're all on this crew boat and we're all rowing at that same pace. Somebody's not working hard while somebody else is taking it easy. We're all in this together. And when we work together, we can move mountains because we can just glide right through that water, and we're going to be more successful than if we're all doing slightly different things at slightly different paces. So try to get your team working together and you can really get some amazing things done. The last part I'll talk about is just being passionate. We work in an amazing industry where we get to help people get better. So challenge your team to get better at it every year. Hone their craft, work on their craft, learn new skills that are going to help patients come in and get better faster. And encourage them. So get some certifications. Keep taking a deep dive into this. And I'll encourage you, now that you're in management, it's just like when we were trying to learn orthopedic skills or neuro skills, and we'd go to courses and we'd practice and we'd try and we'd practice. It's the same thing in management. Lean into it. Learn good management skills. Find those books and blogs and podcasts and get a mentor and really start to shape your craft as a manager. And it's just as rich and just as deep as when we were learning those clinical skills. The last thing I'll finish on is just an asterisk on this topic. Likability often is part of what you receive as a manager. If you're not seeing that, don't just say, oh, it's the way it goes. We're not expected to be liked in these roles. That's not necessarily true. In particular, if you're being a bad boss. If you're harsh, if you're short, if you don't listen, use the lack of feeling liked as a signal to work on those areas and to get better as a manager. Management is something that we can all learn. It's something we can all get better at. And hopefully things like this video help you on that path to just grow a little bit and get a little bit better at what we're doing. So thanks for tuning in. Remember, don't let likability be your primary metric for how you feel you're doing in your role. Resist that urge. If your staff's staying there and you're meeting your marks, you're doing a good job. All right, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.